A great start by the Capitals, but a costly penalty by Tom Wilson let the air out of the Capitals' tires.
You're Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, this podcast is free and available on all the major platforms, including the SiriusXM app and on YouTube. And I want to thank you for making this your first listen each and every day. My name is Dan Holme. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. And the best way that you can help grow the show is to subscribe to Locked On Capitals on YouTube and comment anything down below. I would love to talk Capitals hockey with you one-on-one, and we can do that on subtext. Just check the show description for more details. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, we talk about a great start for the Capitals. I even posted a video during a commercial break saying that the Capitals are playing really, really well, but then penalties proved to be costly for the Capitals, most notably Tom Wilson's that let the air out of the Capitals' tires. We'll talk about that in the show a little bit later. We will talk about how Alex Ovechkin continues to dominate. Listen, he said that he came out of the All-Star break and he said that he's a changed man. He's refreshed. He feels better than he's ever felt. And I was skeptical, but seeing is believing. And Alex Ovechkin is proving to me and everyone that he has found his game. And then a little bit later, we will talk about, despite the loss, that it was a good game by Darcy Kuemper. But just to get it going here, again, when this game was going, I was hyped. I was excited because I was thinking to myself, before I went into this game and the Capitals went into it, I was thinking that, this was going to be a rough game. This is a really good Florida Panthers team that the Capitals were going to struggle. And they struggled later in the game, but to start the game, they played very well. Most notably, TJ Oshie to start the game with that move in front of the net. I'm like, dang, I even said out loud, I'm like, dang, TJ, that was one heck of a play. And it's a good play when you make note of it and say it out loud. But TJ Oshie to start the game played very well. But like I say, it didn't end the way that any of us wanted. A great start by the Capitals, but a penalty by Wilson. That was a tough one. And I don't want to really fault Tom Wilson too much. I do and I don't. He is a heart and soul player. He is going to stand up for his team, and he plays with a lot of emotion. He never mails it in. And I think a lot about what has been done with Tom Wilson is to take the fight out of his game. But you need the fight in Tom Wilson's game if he's going to be productive. Now, I understand that led to a Florida Panthers goal, but had it not led to that, I would have applauded what he had done, because I think that one of the things that's been absent this year by the Capitals is the physicality. We're missing that big time. Tom Wilson, if we remember last year, they had Garnet Hathaway on there. And I know that there are players on this team that have some snarl to their game. You take a look at Edmondson in particular. He has some. Beck Malenstyn. Those players have some fight to their game, but they're not the same kind of player that Tom Wilson or Garnet Hathaway was. But I guess what I'm trying to say is it led to a goal. And I'm not in love with that, but I don't necessarily fault what he did. But talking about the game in particular, it saw the return of Phillips into the game and Abe Kubel out of the game. And what was that all about? Well, we remember the last game, Nicholas Abe Kubel coughed up the puck, and it led to a scoring opportunity, and he sat the rest of the first period. And I don't think that he ever really got out of Spencer Carberry's doghouse after that. I think that, that really kind of stuck in Carberry's head, and he's like, I'm going to give this Phillips guy another opportunity. So that is why you saw him playing tonight. And all things considered, he was generating some opportunities, but Phillips only skated 8 minutes, 46 seconds. So not a lot of time, but one of the things I'm going to go ahead and say about Matthew Phillips, and they talked about it in the broadcast, is he puts the work in. He is on the ice for practice. He's there much after everyone leaves. He's working with the strength and conditioning coaches. He's putting the work in. And, I ultimately don't think that there is a long-term plan for Matthew Phillips on the Capitals, but I do applaud his work ethic. A work ethic with me speaks volumes than a lot of the big top echelon guys in the NHL that just kind of mail it in. But Matthew Phillips was in, Abe Kubel out, and then Trevor Van Riemsdyk was out of the game. And that was due to illness. They said Ethan Bear was in the game, but he skated just 15 minutes, 11 seconds. Again, a bit of a head scratcher for me about Ethan Bear's game. Everyone was hyped when he came to this team that, we got this new blue liner that's going to be the face of the present and the future. But whatever he did to, Spencer Carberry or Mitch Love, they don't like his game, or it appears that way. Otherwise, why would he be a healthy scratch on a regular basis? And he got some playing time tonight, but not a lot of playing time. So a bit of a question there for Ethan Bear. It kind of makes me wonder what the long-term plans are for him. I kind of had him penciled in as being one of the guys on the team in the future, but I guess we don't know. Malenstyn also playing a big game tonight, physicality, but also a costly penalty by him as well. And then the feel-good story of this season is Anthony Mantha scores his 16th goal of the season. It gave the Capitals a 2-1 lead. Mantha, who scored twice against the Panthers on November 8th, leads Washington with 8 second period goals this season. Anthony Mantha, can you believe how he's playing? I mean, I know because I take a look at the stats, but it's hard for me to believe, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But if we take a look at the stats for the Capitals right now, Dylan Strome leads the team with 19 goals, and number 2 is Anthony Mantha. Can you believe that I'm talking about this? This same Anthony Mantha that struggled so much last season has really found his game. The question now is what do the Capitals do with Anthony Mantha? My belief is, Anthony, I'm glad you found your game, but I'm going to see what kind of return we can get for you. Good for the Capitals, good for Anthony. His trade value has increased. So it wasn't a situation where the Capitals would have had to accept a diminished return, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's live in the moment here. In 45 games played, 16 goals, 8 assists for Anthony Mantha. Let's give him a bit of a round of applause, a complete about face for Anthony. And third is Tom Wilson with 12. And Alex Ovechkin is turning on the Jets, now has 11 goals. Again, he's not going to hit his projection, and we'll talk about him in a later segment here. But Alex Ovechkin is turning on the Jets, and I, for one, am very happy about it. Alex Ovechkin's first period goal marked his 16th career goal against Sergei Bobrovsky. The only active goaltender he has scored more against in his career is Marc-Andre Fleury, of course, primarily when he played for the Penguins, but also when he played for the Vegas Golden Knights and the Minnesota Wild here as well. But a great night for Anthony Mantha, a great night for Alex Ovechkin. So at this point of the season, it's not going well. And the Capitals are losing a lot of games, but now 6 in a row. Can you believe it? We're at 6 games in a row here. But what it's about is cherry picking the good things. And the good things in this game is that Anthony Mantha has found his game. The good thing is that Alex Ovechkin is turning on the Jets. The other good thing is the secondary production as well. Alexei Protas recorded his 16th assist of the season on Mantha's goal. Protas has recorded 6 points in 6 career games against the Panthers, the second most points he has registered against a single opponent. Alexei Protas proving why he was deserved of getting that new extension to his contract. He is a millionaire now, as they talked about a couple days ago or a couple games ago where they were kind of really amping up that Anthony Mantha, or excuse me, Alexi Protas is this millionaire and good for him. And, the proof's in the pudding. He played very well tonight against the Florida Panthers. Another guy that's making the most of his opportunities is Mike Sgarbossa. Of course, he got called up when Evgeny Kuznetsov was put in the NHL's player assistance program, but he registered the primary assist on Mantha's goal. It marks Scarbossa's first NHL point since January 2nd, 2022 against the Devils. That's what I'm talking about. And if you're an everydayer of the show, I spoke about that I want a lot of these players that are really kind of lighting it up down in Hershey to get their opportunity and make the most of it. I think Sgarbossa is doing that. Again, I would still like to see Ethan Frank on this team. I'd like to see Pierre Dubé, but Sgarbossa, again, he is no rookie. This is not his first rodeo. He's played in the AHL. He's played in the NHL. But for right now, he is making the most of his opportunities and, maybe some questions for the Capitals about what to do with Sgarbossa in the future. Connor McMichael as well. I'm not surprised. I think a lot of people are surprised. Again, if you're an everydayer, I talked about Connor McMichael in the offseason saying that this has got to be the year for Connor McMichael. Let's give him a nice long look. And it's paid off in spades as Connor McMichael registered his 9th assist of the season on Ovi's power play goal. McMichael, who scored his first career NHL goal against the Panthers on November 4th, 2021, has recorded 5 points, 3 goals, 2 assists in 5 career games versus Florida. So that's what I'm talking about. It's cherry picking the good things. And even the game itself wasn't that bad. One of the things I'm going to say is that the Capitals spent too much time in the penalty box. And, one of the things that Spencer Carberry said is that I'm glad that the PK played well, but maybe we shouldn't have given the Panthers so many opportunities. Kuemper played well despite the loss, and I'll talk about that a little bit later in the show as well. There was too much time in the cap zone, and Kuemper was under pressure for a lion's share of the game. So if you are a person that just looks at the box score, you would look at it and say, well, why did they have Kuemper in there? Why didn't they have Lindgren in there? It wasn't the case. There was a lot of time spent in the Capital zone, and Kuemper, all things considered, played well. The Panthers have a lot of firepower. Matthew Tkachuk scored the first game-tying goal. In the second, Sam Reinhart also gave a power play goal to make it 2-2. Despite that goal, PK was good before that, killing off 4 straight. Now, it would be better if the Caps weren't in that position in the first place, of course. Other positive things about the game is I like Joel Edmondson bringing a lot of physicality. Alex Ovechkin scoring. Wilson's penalty, though, was costly, had good momentum going, and Wilson let the air out of the Capitals' tires. Dowd spent too much time in the box. The final dagger for the Caps was the GWG with 5 minutes and some change. The Caps failed to clear the zone, and Ryan Lomberg, after an extended offensive shift. And then Bobrovsky, proving why he's an all-star, played in beast mode for the Panthers. So there's not a lot of good things to talk about as far as another loss for the Capitals. They're 6th in a row. And it's a difficult thing is how do they get out of this? Is their way up? Are they're near the cellar going, guys, get me out of here. But the problem is there's not going to be someone to throw down the rope and pull them out. They're going to have to work their way through this. The tough part is I think they're going to have to work through these things next season with a different lineup. All right, so coming up here after the break, we will talk about how Alex Ovechkin continues to dominate. What is behind his recent success? I'll discuss coming up. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with an Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. Listen, it is a busy thing if you work in HR and don't deal with paper applications. It's 2024. Why are you doing it? You need Indeed, and listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about it on the Locked On Capitals podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. You need to hire. You need Indeed. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on a 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Claims as of Q1 2024 validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for a 1 year from the date of the first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker-dealer. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So Alex Ovechkin continues to dominate, defying odds, proving Dan wrong. And at the end of the day, if Alex Ovechkin plays really well and proves Dan wrong, well, you want to know something? Guess what? I'm okay with it as he continues to dominate. This is the Alex Ovechkin that is having the slowest career as far as, his worst goal scoring year in his entire career. And he's getting a lot of assists, but he is, lacking in the goal scoring department. He is getting it done as far as assists are concerned, but he is now also chipping in with scoring goals. That's the good thing. Taking a look at Alex Ovechkin here in 46 games played, 11 goals, 22 assists. Again, is Alex Ovechkin turning on the Jets late in the season going to be enough to salvage the season? I ultimately don't think that that's going to be the case, but it is good for him as he is chasing down the great one, Wayne Gretzky, and the Capitals always play better when Alex Ovechkin plays better. Now, I didn't say that the Capitals always win when Alex Ovechkin plays better, but the Capitals, generally speaking, play better when their captain, the Great Eight, is engaged, and that was evident in the game tonight. And again, I'm happy about it. Ovi is a changed man after the All-Star break. He said he was well rested and felt good, and I was skeptical, but Ovi is putting his money where his mouth is and is playing some really great hockey. Let's acknowledge that. If I'm shooting the arrows, I'm also the one giving the applause. Alex Ovechkin, take a bow. You are playing some great hockey. Alex Ovechkin scores his 833rd career goal on the power play to give the Capitals a 1-0 lead with 3:22 remaining in the first period. Ovechkin has now scored in 3 straight games and has recorded 13 points, 5 goals, 8 assists in his last 13 games, scoring it from, you guessed it, his office. I know they're trying to get him to kind of go more over to where John Carlson normally shoots from, but they still need someone to fill that spot. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. He made the most of it as he scored from a very familiar place, his office, the left dot. Ovi scoring his 11th goal from his office in true vintage Ovi style. 3rd straight game with a goal, and he now has 13 points in his last 13 games, 62 more for Ovi to pass the great one. Again, chipping away at it, making it seem, maybe more realistic that he is going to be able to catch Wayne Gretzky. Again, I still don't know if he is going to be able to do it, but I will say that he is playing much better as of late. It is still a smaller sample size. I will let you know at the end of the season, I guess, if it was sustainable. But for right now, living in the here and now, Alex Ovechkin is playing some truly great hockey. And, this season, it's not going to go the way we wanted to. They're not going to make it to the playoffs. But if he can continue to chip away and, keep going for that goal of catching Wayne Gretzky, well, then I guess all is not lost. I guess the question is how long will it take? Will the Capitals need to sign him to a new deal to get it done? There are a lot of things to ponder. He is 38 years old, and players don't get better the older that they get. I guess Tom Brady is the exception to that, but generally speaking, Jaromir Jagr, but he's even not playing better now, but he's also in his 50s. So again, those are all outside the box moves. But Alex Ovechkin in particular at 38, playing well, but very diminished in the goal scoring department, but is turning it on now. Positive. I want to concentrate on the positive, but also not, forget about everything else that he is chasing down Wayne Gretzky at the end of the day. And is there enough runway in front of him to get it done? It's kind of my belief that he might even play his last year of hockey in the KHL. It's kind of a nod to his home country. But it's an interesting thing about Alex Ovechkin. I guess we ultimately don't know right now why he got off to such a slow start. Is it Spencer Carberry's systems? I've long speculated that he's dealing with some sort of underlying health issue, an injury of some sort. It looked to me almost like a shoulder, perhaps a rotator cuff issue. I guess we won't know until the season is over. But listen, there have been seasons that he's played a long swath of the season with a pretty substantial injury. I think we'll probably find out at the end of the season that he was, in fact, playing with an injury because I've talked to a lot of beat writers on the show, and they say that it's Father Time, that Father Time's undefeated. You hear that all the time, the cliche, Father Time is undefeated. I have a hard time believing that it's just Father Time and that, he totally deteriorated over the summer and just totally changed when people aren't taking into consideration that there is a new head coach, that he is no longer playing with a familiar center. For years, he was playing with Nick Backstrom, and I know that he hadn't played with him on the regular for quite some time, but there are some other things to consider other than just saying that he got old. That just seems like a kind of a cop-out answer, if you ask me. I think that, we will find out that there was that injury, and maybe he got some sort of treatment during the All-Star break, because, it is interesting. It's interesting. Let's just kind of widen the lens a little bit here. It's interesting and kind of, head scratching that he started the season so slow. What was behind that? And then what is behind him playing so well after the All-Star break? I do believe that he probably received some sort of treatment on whatever injury that he's dealing with. Perhaps, I guess if it's a rotator cuff, you're not going to be able to fix that in a week. But if it's not something like that, maybe he got some sort of treatment, because it is interesting. And I don't want to think about it too much. At the end of the day, I'm just happy that Alex Ovechkin is playing truly great hockey, that we hope that this continues to move forward. Again, I don't think that this team has what it takes this season to make it to the playoffs. So if we can kind of just scratch that off and kind of concentrate on the positive about Alex Ovechkin playing some great hockey and chasing down Wayne Gretzky. All right, so coming up here after the break, we will talk about that despite the loss, that Darcy Kuemper played a great game. What are you talking about, Dan? The Capitals lost. I'll discuss coming up. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, and views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets, and if there's one thing that's frustrating to me, is that when my favorite band or my favorite sports team is playing, my favorite comedian, I can't find tickets. Take the guesswork out of all of it with Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, Create an account and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So there is a goalie controversy in Washington, but is there? As the trade deadline looms, there's a lot of chatter out there about Charlie Lindgren, the outlaw. Chucky Sideburns could potentially be on the move. Let's kind of be honest here. He struggled in the last game that he played as he got the hook in the first period. Again, that wasn't totally on him. Maybe you've heard me talk about this before, but the Capitals were collapsing in front of Chucky Sideburns. But in any event, Darcy Kuemper went into the game, the last game, after Charlie Lindgren got the hook and played pretty well, all things considered. So what happened in this game? They gave Darcy Kuemper the start again. And to be fair, if you in fact watch the game, you would say that Darcy Kuemper played a good game. Now, you won't know that by looking at the box score, but if you watch the game, again, the Capitals were hemmed into their own zone, and Darcy Kuemper was under pressure, under duress for a good chunk of the game. I think that it could have been a far bigger blowout, but Darcy Kuemper kept the Capitals in the game. And it's an interesting thing about what happens between now and the trade deadline. Will it be Darcy Kuemper and Charlie Lindgren to the end of the season, or will it be Darcy Kuemper and Hunter Shepard or Clay Stevenson, something like that? I guess it remains to be seen. But talking about the play of Kuemper tonight, he played well. Despite the loss, Darcy had a solid game. He saved 37 of 40, and he had a lot to deal with. And what am I talking about is that there is a lot of firepower on the Florida Panthers. And just talking about who scored goals, if you're not familiar, Matthew Tkachuk, maybe you've heard of him. He's quite a big player. Ryan Lomberg got a goal as well. And then Lester Reinen got a goal. Sam Reinhart got a goal. So, you take a look at it. They scored 4 goals. One of them was an empty netter. That it's not as bad as it appears. That Darcy Kuemper was dialed in, but the Capitals, the wheels started to fall off towards the end of the game. Again, I will once again point to the Tom Wilson penalty, is when the Capitals had great momentum up until that point, and then Tom Wilson tried to be the savior, tried to duke it out, and stuck a nail in the side of the Capitals' tires, and the momentum was drained, and the Capitals lost yet another game. But it wasn't from a lack of effort from Darcy Kuemper. I think he played really well, and I think that, he deserves the next start. I'm not here to disparage Charlie Lindgren just because he got the hook from after the game, but I am a believer in riding the hot hand. I don't have any alliances with any player, like it's got to be this player under this circumstance and this guy under another circumstance. I want the guy that's going to give the Capitals the best opportunity at winning the game. So, at the end of the day, there's no real loser in the situation. If you go with Darcy Kuemper or you go with Charlie Lindgren, I feel fairly confident that as long as the Capitals play sound defensively, I'm talking about not a lot of breakaways, not a lot of time killing off penalties, that I feel confident in Kuemper and Charlie Lindgren. But I'm just going with the hot hand. And, people are going to say, hot hand? What, Dan? They lost 4-2. Again, widen the lens. If you didn't watch the game, watch the game. Darcy Kuemper made some great saves in the game, and I think that he is deserving of another start. Again, my heart will not be broken. I will not be pounding the table going, why are you going with Charlie Lindgren if Charlie Lindgren goes in there? But that's just kind of my assessment on what I would do. But all things considered, again, Darcy played well. The Capitals as a team, this is going to sound funny as well, played rather well. And it's a funny thing to say when people say that, but Dan, what are you talking about? They lost the game. They played pretty well. It was just the last portion. I know I talk about this all the time on the show, but it was different. I thought that the Capitals played very, very well until the very end. And then again, it was old demons coming to haunt them again, the penalties. But I think that they just need to clean up some things here and there, not spend so much time killing off penalties. I know the PK played well, but they shouldn't have to kill off so many penalties in the first place. That I think that, they can win a couple more games, in the next stretch here. It is going to be very, very difficult. Make no mistake about it. They're playing the Bruins. They're playing the Canucks coming up here. It is not going to be an easy out for any of these games, and it is going to be a test of this team. It's interesting when we talk about the Capitals, oftentimes they can rise to the challenge against truly tough opponents. Can they do that against the Bruins? Can they do that against the Canucks? That is my hope. And I guess it remains to be seen if they'll be able to pull it off. All right. Once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, your only daily year-round podcast covering the Washington Capitals. And I want to thank all of you that listen on the audio side and watch this on YouTube. You are ultimately what makes this show successful. So when you're done here, head on over to Locked On's 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now you can also find it on Amazon Fire TV. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find the Locked On Sports Today channel right now on Amazon Fire TV. This Locked On channel is just blowing up, and it's a great thing to see. I hope you guys check it out. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holney, and I'll talk to you again next time.